G'day, everyone, and welcome to another wonderful episode of the Joey Wiggle Experience. It's great to have you all back with us once again. And our guest today is someone who has played a huge role in Australian television and in the entertainment industry in the country for decades. She started off as a graduate of the prestigious NIDA course before going on to becoming a presenter on Play School in the 1980s, and then going on to star in the iconic, groundbreaking series Back to the Rafters. Please welcome to the show the lovely Miss Merridy Eastman. Nice to have you on the show, Merridy. Sorry, I nearly messed up the name.
Yeah, she's that famous. Thanks, Joey. Thank you. That's a very generous introduction.
Oh, my brain was saying Merridy. That's right. Yeah. But anyway, it's good to have you on, Merridy. And like I said, I'm surprised to see the list of things you've done in the entertainment industry outside of Play School, because usually when we book these guests on the show, we usually aim for the shows that they kind of like made an impact on in our childhoods, like Play School, like The Wheels, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But then when we look at the things that they do outside of the show, it just blows our minds. It's like when you look at Noni Hazelhurst and what she's done outside the show, you're thinking, whoa. And then it's like, I'm looking at you and I'm like, whoa. And then I look at it, and then I find out you're a graduate of the National Institute of Dramatic Arts. I'm like, okay, whoa. No. Because I've heard the stories about NIDA. I've heard because that's actually where I tried to apply for that for once, for the BFA, the Bachelor of Fine Arts, and I was told that I wasn't accepted. But also the fact that 2,000 people applied, 22 got in.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I think it is. It's only 2,000. I thought it was more thousands. But anyway. Yeah, it's a ridiculous. Your chances of getting into that place are ridiculous, and you should never give up, because a lot of people, like including the people in my year, had tried, 4 or 5 times to get in. So there you go, Joey. There's still time if you really want to go there. Well, I'm sorry, audience.
Yeah, I feel like I'll still be applying until I'm in my 50s, and then it'll be like totally worth it.
Well, but anyway, in my years that were much older than me. I was 18 when I auditioned, but I remember when I walked through the doors, I was 19, and there were people in our year who were, I think, in their late 20s.
Yeah, it must have been. Did it feel like it was? Because I don't even know what the odds were back then. I mean, it probably was still the same. But when you got accepted into NIDA, because it's such a, like I said, 2,000 people, I would say about 1,000, 2,000, and a small handful get accepted. I don't think many people realize how hard it is to get into a course like NIDA.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's hard. You have to work hard at your audition. I think a lot of people think, it's acting, how hard can it be? And they don't do enough preparation. And, you just can't prepare enough for those things. You've got to, when I auditioned, it was 3 pieces. And I remember one of them was a Shakespeare. And I just remember rehearsing myself for weeks, so that when I walked through that door feeling so nervous, I had done the work, and that stood me in good stead. And then on top of the pieces that you perform to the panel, they get you to do lots of improvisations. Yeah, it's nerve-wracking, but that's acting, isn't it? There's always a nerve-wracking aspect to standing up in front of people and performing. You've just got to commit to what it is you want to, the message you want to give through whatever character you're playing, or as yourself. You've got to commit to that message so that you can, sail forward.
I think that's you know what, the hardest thing about being an actor is, and I agree, the hardest thing is being yourself, because when you're doing a bunch of monologues and you have to imagine yourself as this character and this character and this character, and you're used to all of that, and that's how you perform theatrically. And then when it comes to having to play yourself, you're like, hi.
Yeah. I think I know what you mean. I find people that do stand-up comedy, I don't know how they do that. I think that is terrifying. I could never do it. I have such admiration for them. And again, I have admiration for public speakers, but especially public speakers or anyone that sits on a panel or on a stage without a script, in front of a big audience. I think that people that can speak off the cuff, our public intellectuals, for example, they're just, um, and so many people that do this every day. I just think that takes a lot of guts. When you're acting, you know what you're doing. You've rehearsed it a million times, and you're sort of behind something. You're behind the wig and the makeup, and I'm always in wigs and makeup anyway, and carrying props and things. So you've got all those things in front of you. It's not you. You're not totally exposed.
Yeah. I think it's also just because I don't know how many gigs before getting play school kind of catered to being yourself, because then when play school comes along, that's
Yeah,
a totally different story. And I think 90 summed it up perfectly. It was the hardest thing to do, being yourself, I think, in a way. And I think, and I can agree, because it's like when you watch the show now, I mean, every presenter who's been on the show is either a NIDA graduate. I don't know how. Very prestigious to in a way, but also yeah, you feel like you can relate to them because they're very calm and they're very joyful and they're also very relaxing. It's kind of like meditating in a way, because you feel like it's like they're your parents for like 30 minutes on TV.
yeah. I look. I know what you mean because I grew up watching Play School, so I know exactly what you mean, Joey. Yeah, I just remember somebody saying when I did my Play School audition, I think I was 1 year or 2 years out of NIDA. That just to get through the Play School audition, what was such a badge of honour, because it
Yeah,
was half an hour. They'd film you for half an hour, and you had your script, your half-hour Play School script to learn, and they'd film you. And if anything went wrong, you had to just keep going, because the idea was that once you're on Play School and you make mistakes, the kids love that because you look so human, and you just keep
yeah,
through it. And that this half-hour audition was also nerve-wracking because you were speaking directly to a camera, and you had to speak to that camera as if it was a 4-year-old child. Um, and I think that can be nerve-wracking, but if you can actually imagine that is a 4-year-old child, if you can get that bit right, everything falls into place. Everything falls into place. It doesn't matter if things go wrong, because you're talking to a 4-year-old and you can laugh about it and start again or keep going. Um, and a 4-year-old child is not your harshest critic. They just want to play.
yeah,
So
they do.
if you can just make that leap, that imaginative leap, then, as I said before, you can sail forward. It's these imaginative leaps we've got to make,
Yeah,
and it's a matter of committing to an idea and just going for it. That's a 4-year-old child.
that is a 4-year-old child.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, and also I think and I keep quoting 90 because 90 was my favorite when I was growing up, because I was born in the 90s, so I was more of like a Noni, George, Angela kind of person. Benita as well. Benita's amazing. She's been on forever. But
Yeah.
I think 90 made a really good point too. It's like if they are the best BS detectives, and they sense that you're not really talking to them,
That's
an
right.
ant crawling up the wall will quickly take their attention. It's like that's what every children's performer should be taking on as the most important information
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely, Joey. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And look, Noni is I think she's everyone's Play School favourite. She was just so good at it. And she's such a good presenter altogether. She's also one of my favourite actresses. She's
yeah,
just a bit
I've
amazing.
seen I've seen her live. She did Mother a couple of years ago,
I
because
mean,
I'm in Melbourne, so I saw it at the Arts Centre. It was like, and her
yeah,
ability to command is like, it's like, no, I'm surprised she didn't get a. She should have had a much bigger career outside of Australia, I feel like, because she just has that natural ability to cry on command. And it's like, oh,
yeah, she's an amazing actress. I mean, yeah, I remember her in Monkey Grip when I was quite young. Um, and Fran, her performance in Fran, she's so
yeah,
good. You're right, she's one of the best actresses. And look, maybe it would be typical Noni to not have wanted that big international career, because she's such a good teller of Australian stories. that
Mm.
I'm almost glad that she missed that sort of, launching pad that actors had, you know, much later than was available to Noni when she was that age. It was I think in the early 2000s or the 90s where people graduated from NIDA, for example, and went straight to LA and got an LA agent and all that. Whereas the people my generation and Noni's were sort of more focused on staying here in Australia, which
Yeah,
I think in the end is there's a lot to be said for that. Australians staying in Australia and telling Australian stories. And we're so lucky to have had her all these years telling some incredible stories in her wonderful way. Yeah, big fan.
big fan. We definitely have that kind of advantage too, in a way. We really do have that advantage of like storytellers and like just the right kind of children's entertainers because we really excel at that in Australia in a way.
There were a lot of good actors on
Yeah,
Play School, I've got to say.
yeah, a lot of good
I'm
actors.
including
Yeah,
myself in that, but they just
yeah,
were
yeah.
terrific.
But But I was going to say about you because it's like when we talk about play school, I mean, does it feel like a prestigious accomplishment too? Because I've heard stories of many people auditioning and then them being like, we did the top, we were the top of our class, and now we're going to audition for play school. It's like, okay,
Yeah,
but
yeah. No, you're right. It's very
draw a
prestigious.
dinosaur upside down or something like that.
It's. I think it's great that it's so prestigious that there's recognition for the fact that it is a bloody hard gig to get right,
Mm,
and and I think that there's a reason that some very good actors have been drawn to Play School, even though it pays not very much money, and they've had busy schedules, like Noni, for example. Um, but I see Deb Mailman on there, and look, all sorts of people who I'm a big fan of, and I think that the reason that they all do it is because it's such a feather in your cap to have been on that show. And as I said before, I think that it takes great skill to just talk to a camera as if it's a child. And I stuck to 4-year-old before. I just want to say, from zero to even the mums and dads and grandparents watching, you've still got to have some truth and playfulness and genuine connection as you look at that cold glass lens. It really is an imaginative leap. The more I think about it, the more proud I am that I got that bit right. I think I did most of the time. I was really not very proud of my early play school days, but I got there towards the end, and I
yeah.
really am. I did it
You know, and
for
I just realized too because I've heard the Wiggles also say that they were inspired by the talking down the lens. I feel like when you think about it, of how much children's media has evolved, I feel like Play School was in a way responsible for that. Like if it hadn't been for them introducing the bananas and the
Yeah,
toy, the banana, they wouldn't be a Bananas and Pajamas TV series. If they
yeah.
hadn't exposed the Wiggles couldn't have taken off as much as they did. And then it's like all of this stuff aligned and that makes me think like how influential it is to children's entertainment as a whole, not just in Australia, but as a whole.
I think you're right. I think you're right. I mean, it has to have had a huge influence. It's been around forever, and everyone, just regards it as the best of its kind.
And
So,
now in its 60th year too. So yeah,
yeah,
still making an impact 60 years later.
I know.
Incredible.
How amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. But talking about you, because obviously I wanna keep the focus on you. Sorry, it's just I would love to hear because you mentioned that you auditioned for Play School soon after you finished at NIDA. What was that experience like?
The audition.
Yeah,
I
having to
remember.
audition because that then when we auditioned for Play School, it's a really interesting story to hear.
Well, I'm glad I didn't hear too much about what an ordeal that audition is before I auditioned. I was just really proud to get one because it was hard to get an audition. They would sort of pick and choose who they wanted to audition. So when my agent rang with the news that I had an audition, I remember we both did a little, happy dance around the room. Um, and then it was a matter of learning the lines and the songs, which was pretty easy. I think I had a few weeks to prepare, and and then when I went in there, they were just so warm, friendly. I can't remember. I think Henrietta Clark might have been there, the producer. or dear old John Fox, who's not with us anymore. He was a producer then too. Henriette, there was someone else. Anyway, there was a sort of a whole team of them, and they were just very warm and inviting. And I think I felt surprisingly relaxed, Joey, to tell you the truth. Otherwise, I wouldn't have done a good job, and I must have. Otherwise, they wouldn't have given me the job. And I really connected with the whole idea of play school, because not only was I brought up watching it, but I'm an ABC child. My father worked for the ABC his whole life. So I grew up watching the ABC, and we grew up having evening dinners watching the ABC news. I'd see him on television on the ABC reading the news when I was very little. And later he was a producer, and then he went into management. So our whole lives we were an ABC family. So in some way I felt like when I was walking through those doors of any ABC building that to some extent I was at home, and that
Yeah.
helped.
It definitely, yeah, because it feels very like they're not on anyone's team, they're just on Australia's team sort of way. So it feels like they're
Yeah,
really
they're a
like
national broadcaster. They've got
they're
to be. Yeah,
national.
yeah,
Yeah, you
exactly.
got to be, exactly, yeah. But anyway, when you did the audition, was it because sometimes when people did an audition, they'd be in a room with another presenter and all that kind of stuff. Were there any other presenters doing the audition with you, or?
You know what? I can't remember. I
Oh no,
don't.
that's all right.
I don't think that there was. I'm tempted to say Philip Quast, but I don't think Philip was there. He was somebody I worked with once I got the job, as was George Spartels, and I even got to work with Benita and um,
Alistair.
Alistair.
Yeah,
Alistair. I think I watched Alistair when I was little. I think I
he
even
was
watched
the first
Benita.
on the show. He was the OG when you think about it.
Yeah. Oh, and who wrote all the Spencer?
Oh, Don Spencer. Oh,
I worked with Don. Um, but look, I don't think that I worked with anyone else in my audition. Otherwise, I would remember who that was. I think it was all on my own,
mm.
which amazes me that I got through it. I mean, how terrifying. I don't want to put people off if anyone's out there wanting to be a
No,
play
no,
school.
no. I think this is kind of important because I think a lot of people dream of being on the show, but they also need to know that like most of them are NIDA graduates, so it's kind of like, well, yeah, and also you got to have a really good agent, and also you got to be very lucky, and also you got to be very natural, all that kind of stuff combined.
Yeah, I do think a lot of things have to come together to get there in the end. That's true.
Yeah,
That's true.
exactly. But
Yeah.
then, anyways, after play school, after your stint on play school, what was the journey for you after?
Okay, well, I remember the year that I started play school, I was also working in Adelaide for the State Theatre Company. It was a really good year. It was 1986. How old is your audience, Joey?
They are not under the age of 18. I guarantee most of them will not know who Peter Coombe is.
What's that? Anyway, I went straight from NIDA into theatre, basically, and worked for the state theatre companies for the next decade. Actually, in the 90s, I was working in Melbourne for the Melbourne Theatre Company. And I mean, every year I think I did a show with the Melbourne Theatre Company. And then I worked for Sydney Theatre Company a couple of times in the early 2000s. And also in the early 2000s, I started working more in television, in that I did the first of the two big series that I was working in, and that was Always Greener for Channel 7. I did that for a few years, and then later on, as you said, I did Pack to the Rafters for a few years, a
And what was
decade.
that experience like? Because it was a very acclaimed show as well.
Yeah, look, Rafters, both of those shows. Always Greener was a really, really terrific show that was doing so well. And unfortunately, it was axed to everyone's surprise, because it was doing as well as Pack to the Rafters did, years later. Always Greener was a show starring John Howard and Ann Tenney and Michaela Barnes and Caitlin McDougall, a whole cast of amazing actors. And anyway, we had so much fun with that. And then it was, as I said, a bit untimely axed. And then years later, this is what I heard. They they sort of realised that they maybe made a mistake or axed it too quickly. So they were trying to get the band together again. This is what my agent told me at the time, and they couldn't. And so they ended up, Channel 7, coming up with something very similar with, you know, with the people that were huge stars at the time, i.e. Rebecca Gibney and Eric Thompson, and that was Packed to the Rafters. Now, when that went to air, I think in 2008, something around about then. Oh, no, maybe 2010. Anyway, I was living in Munich, Germany, because we haven't talked about that, but there was a whole chunk of my life where I just took off and went and lived in Germany. And I heard about Packed to the Rafters, and I thought, oh, God, it sounds so wonderful. I wish I could see it. And then we came back to Australia to live, me, my German husband, and our son, in 2010. And that's when Packed to the Rafters rang, and suddenly I was sort of working with a lot of the same people that I had done years before with Always Greener. It was just so much fun. It was the same producer, Joe Porter, and it was just so much fun. I can't tell you. So I was lucky twice with Channel 7, and yeah, Rafters was a huge hit, and went for much longer. Yeah, it was very special, that show, and I'm amazed how many people are still watching it. I don't know how, and still remember it, and I still get stopped occasionally. I mean, I used to get stopped a lot. But now I only get stopped occasionally, and it's like, "Oh, you are Thingy in Packed to the Rafters, Julie's friend." They can never remember my name, but that's okay.
That's all right. Look, if it was ever the case, I'd probably be like, "Oh, it's you from play school."
Yeah, no, that happens, but usually it's much older people.
Much old, yeah. You'd have to be like in your
Yeah,
40s or stuff. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah, exactly. People in their 40s say, "I grew up watching you." And I think, bloody hell.
It's like, oh no. But yeah, and also you mentioned that you worked a lot in theatre, and I think that's just the natural path for a play school performer and presenter. It's like they work through the theatre scene, and I think many of them have done it as well. And we've mentioned Noni as well, and also George has done it, and all of the greats have done theatre. And I
Oh,
think
Philip Quast, you know.
in terms of presenting and doing something live once with no cuts and edits and stuff, that is talent in a way that's like that's unique, because it's like you're giving a genuine performance like you're a human being in a theater scene. But you've done it for many years. In fact, you've recently just finished up a stint of Romeo and Juliet. What was that like?
That was great. I've always wanted to work for Bell Shakespeare, and I think they're the most amazing theatre company. They're our, you know, National Shakespeare Theatre Company that tour as well as perform at the Opera House. I mean, how good does it get? And they rehearse down sort of near the Opera House on Pier 2. Um, it's just the most wonderful theatre company to work for, not just because of, you know, geographical reasons. Really good. It's really good culture. They're very warm, friendly, hardworking, committed. John Bell's very involved. You know, it's great to see him at opening nights and things. I work with Peter Evans, who is the artistic director of the company. He was our director on Romeo and Juliet. It was 5 months' work. We did a huge tour. Was it 4 or 5 months? Anyway, we toured everywhere, all over Australia, and ended up at the Opera House. And I was playing the nurse in Romeo and Juliet, which is a part I've wanted to play for a long time now. So it was a great experience. I loved it, and it was a great cast. I fell in love with our cast. They're very young people.
That's
Yeah,
good. That's good. That's really good. Very important. Very young. We are
yeah,
keeping young people in theatre, which is very important.
yeah, yeah. I was so impressed because a lot of them were straight out of drama school, and their work was just remarkable. You know, their commitment and their work ethic was really. I was quite inspired because you know, I'm used to working with people my own age, and yeah, I was very surprised at how hardworking young people are today, straight out of NIDA. A lot of them were, I've got to say. Yeah. I mean, I shouldn't be surprised because it's NIDA, and they worked us hard too. But
It is. I mean, there's that, and there's what do you think would have been the This might be a dumb question. What do you think would have been the backup if it was, because like again, the odds of getting into NIDA are very like strict. If it had been a no, what would have been the next step? Like just going for WAPA or anything like that? What was the other one too in Western Australia? I don't know
Well,
what
it's
the other
funny you should
one.
ask that because when I mean, I was a Tasmanian, but I sort of, I knew Sydney better than I knew any other city. So I wanted to go to NIDA. But if NIDA hadn't been around or if I hadn't gotten in, I'm sure I would have tried for the Victorian College of the Arts in Melbourne, which is a brilliant drama school,
Oh yeah,
or
the VCA. Yeah, yeah.
VCA or WAPA. They were both, although I don't think WAPA was around when I think WAPA was just forming when we were at NIDA. I'm not sure. You'd have to find out from WAPA. But they came along a bit later than my time at NIDA. I was at NIDA in the early 80s. God, it was a long time ago. But I've got to tell you that when I auditioned for NIDA, I also auditioned for another Sydney drama school called the Drama Studio, which at that time was a really interesting drama school. And I was seeing a lot of their stuff and thinking, wow, their graduates are pretty good too. Yeah, but they're no longer around. Anyway, all I'm saying is that drama schools can come and go, but the three that seem to have survived are WAPA, VCA, and NIDA, big time.
And And I was going to say, and I don't know how much longer we've got because I know you said you only have 45 minutes, so we'll try and I'll try and ask the questions that we need to ask. But
Yeah.
when you see young people, and I think it's a good feeling to see that young people are still taking part in the arts.
Mm.
And like you said in Romeo and Juliet, like you saw a huge amount of young people coming out of drama school doing
Mm.
that. What do you think the this might be weird. The secret, what could be its secret that is making younger and younger people take part into theatre?
Um, I don't know, Joey. I just think that you're straight out of high school and you've got those choices to either go to university or go to a place like NIDA. Um, or some people finish a university course and know that they're just still not quite in their element, and that they want to be actors or designers or technical production people or directors or writers. um, it always attracts young people because I think that's when you make those big life choices, straight out of high school sort of, or around about university age, early 20s. It was always that way. It was the same with my generation, and I'm glad to say it hasn't changed. I'm glad to see it hasn't changed. um, I just hope that young people are continuously always encouraged to go into the arts, because I think it's a wonderful way to explore yourself in the world that you live in. I mean, it is from the time we're little children and playing in a playground. You see kids role playing, and what do they
Mm,
do apart from just having fun? They're exploring the world around them and the things that don't quite make sense to them. It's a great way to explore the world that we live in through the arts, and whether that's through painting or music or ballet or singing or dancing or acting. I encourage parents especially to make sure that option is always open to their kids, whatever age those kids are, because a lot of kids like me do not fit into the school system. I never did. I really struggled. I was not academically strong at all, and I was incredibly artistic, but I went to a school that did not encourage me to explore the arts. I did it outside
yeah.
art hours, and you can do that. There's always a drama club or a ballet
Oh
club.
yeah, no, there is. I think, and I agree. Like parents need to like stop forcing their kids to do things they don't want to do, and just because it's a social norm. And if they're really into arts, like painting and dancing and singing, like yeah, like encourage them. Like it's the 21st century. It's the 21st century. There's nothing wrong with any of this.
Yeah, but even though you say it's the 21st century, I remember when our son was at primary school, and I was, saying to the staff, why isn't there more music, drama, painting, dance stuff happening. We're all taking our kids out of school and paying for these classes outside of school hours. These should be part of a primary school education.
Mm.
For a start, boys especially, but all kids will learn much more sitting at a desk for hours and hours if they've been running around outside or doing drama or, expressing themselves in other ways. If they get to do that first, then you'll have a more, obedient, sort of hungry to learn child. I guarantee all occupational therapists will agree with me there. So,
I agree big time too. So you got me on your side too. Yeah.
yeah.
But it's pretty, like, it's so interesting because also when you think about it, if you have the ability to perform in front of like, I don't know about this statement, but do you feel like if you're able to talk down to a camera to a child that you do not even know, and yet they are watching you, connecting to you, relating to you, treating you like as if you're their mom, aunt, grandma, anything like that, do you feel like you've made it in the industry when you can connect to a child that you don't even know is watching you, but they are watching you through the telly?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's why play school is such a rewarding job, because if you can make that leap, that imaginative leap, even though the kid isn't there, it's working. If you are committed to it, if you really can imagine that child responding to you, it's like any bit of acting. It's rewarding because you know that it's working for you. You can believe it yourself. You
Yeah,
believe it.
because it made me, because I thought about it and I'm thinking that is like, I don't think it kind of sunk in 100%, because it's like when I looked at a documentary that was talking about play school and how they speak down the lens and stuff, and it's like that is like that is it's such a talent to be able to do that, no matter what kind of background you have. But if you can talk down the camera and you know where to look at, because I don't even, because that would also be the hardest bit, to trying to find the exact spot to look at the camera,
Yeah.
and you have to do that the whole time, and then imagining, like, it's like basically treating the camera as your kid.
Exactly. What you just said. Yeah.
So basically the secret is treating the camera like it's a child.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's the same thing you do when you're on stage and you're playing a role. You use your imagination. You just do the work beforehand, think
Yeah,
about it, prepare in whatever ways you can, and
yeah.
to it, and you're acting.
Yeah, but I can say from my personal experience too, is like when I did acting on stage, the one thing that I kind of, like, I agreed, but then I kind of disagreed. It was the fact that, like, yeah, we have to project. Obviously, you got to project to the back of the room. That's very important. But the hardest bit is knowing where to look the whole time, because you can't just lock your eyes on one spot the entire time. You got to make everyone feel like you're speaking to them too. And being on stage and you can't see the audience, what do you think would be your advice for young performers who are on stage and they're performing and they have to look to the audience, but the hardest bit sometimes is trying to know exactly where to look?
Well, that depends. Are you talking about a performance, which means that you are talking to the audience, like a
Yeah,
narrator of a play, or are you
well, like,
talking about
yeah,
looking out?
let's say narrator, because I was gonna say now it's not just one camera as a child. There's like 10,000 of them, and you've got to try and connect to all of them all at once. Well, maybe not
Well,
10,000. That's a bit of a stretch. Maybe like 100 or 500 in a theater.
yeah, but I mean,
10,000, I think I'd prick
as I,
myself.
as I said, Joey, you got to differentiate whether you mean talking to an audience like a public speaker, or like a character in a play, like a narrator that talks to an audience. In which case, you've just got to literally do that. You've got to single out people and talk to them. And even if it's
Mm,
black and you can't see things, the lights are on you, and that's just a sea of black. Again, you've got to use your imagination and think about, that's my uncle so and so, that's my auntie so and so, or this is my family, or these are my friends, whatever imaginatively the play is asking of you, you've got to do that. Or if you're standing on stage and you're in a scene and you've just got to look out into that black as if it's mountains, or as if it's a window, or as if it's, whatever. Well, this is basically what acting is.
Yeah.
You just have to do the work.
Mm.
Acting is hard work. Please, people who want to be actors, don't ever think it's easy. You've got to do the
Please.
work.
Please.
You can stand on a stage and look out into that blackness, and it is not blackness. It is what you are asked to imagine it to be, so that you can convey that to your audience. They are so willing to go with you. They don't want to be sitting there in an audience. They want to be imagining they are wherever you're taking them.
Yeah. And you know what? That thing you just said, I agree. They're willing to be with you. And I think that's very important for actors to know too, because it's like, if you don't feel, it's like actors shouldn't feel like scared because the audience is going to judge them. The audience want to understand you. They want to listen to you. But if you're not connecting to them and you're not telling them the story, like if you're just speaking words, it's like without any kind of story behind it, it'd be like, I'll be looking at that ant crawling up the wall in the theater.
Yeah. You got to take them with you. You got to do the work. You got to commit.
Yeah.
And then you got to
commit.
play. Then you got to play and have fun. See, that's the last. Once you've done all that work, you can go out there and be quite playful. And that was the beautiful thing about doing a 5-month tour, 4-month tour, by the way. By the end of the tour, when we were back here at the Opera House, we'd done that play. So this is Romeo and Juliet. We'd done it so many times that I just felt liberated on stage by a sense of playfulness that I didn't have at the beginning. And that was wonderful. I've got to go soon, Joey.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, yeah. I think I lost track of time. I thought it was 45 minutes, like 15 minutes ago. That's all right. But before you wrap up, actually, I just thought I'd like to ask you what your advice would be. I think we might have just kept. I think we added a lot of advice on today's episode, but for you personally, what advice we have for anyone who wants to follow in the footsteps you have, or potentially just try and be a children's entertainer, or even, or just any of that kind of stuff in the field of entertainment or play school?
Yeah, sure.
I think I added in too many words. But,
no, that's all right. That's all right. Well, with something like Play School, watch the show, watch it and watch it and watch it over and over again. Get in touch with them, preferably through your agent if you've got an agent, and find out about the process and how you can audition. But practice at home. There's so many ways you can practice Play School at home if that's the sort of thing you want to do. Practice filming yourself. These days we can film ourselves. When I was auditioning for Play School, we didn't have iPhones or even video cameras at home. It was 1 out of 100 of us had one of them. But practice at home. You can practice all day, every day. And as I said, watch those sort of shows a lot. As for what was your other question? How to be an actor? How to approach?
I think the approach. Oh my god, I keep forgetting my questions. But I think the question was when you're trying to be natural on stage as well, because I think that's the scariest thing, trying to be natural and acting like yourself when you have to study all these other artists, and because it's like you're playing their roles, but it sucks because you feel like you're performing a mimic of their role. But what would your advice be to try and be more natural to the role, like your version?
I come back to doing the work, and this is the training that I had at NIDA. We spent forever just reading the text, studying the text, whatever the play, until you understand why that playwright sat down to write that play. Why? Why did they write that play? What has it got to say? What is your character's function and role in that play? So that you are engaging academically and thoughtfully and intellectually with the text for a start, and then to look at the nuances, the way that character speaks, why they speak that way, the rhythm of the language, all these technical things, but they're all fun to explore in a rehearsal room with a good director. And and just do the work every day in rehearsal until you've explored the play to the point where you understand why you're doing it, why the playwright wrote that play, why the audience needs to see this play, what message does it have that you want to be a part of telling. And it all comes together if you do the work. It is hard work. It is wonderful, rich, rewarding work to do. Don't think that acting isn't hard work.
That's beautiful, Merridy. And I think that's a great way to summarize it. 100%.
I hope so, Joey, because I feel very passionately about it. And
Yes, I think a lot of us in the community love it too, especially my viewers. We love the arts, so yeah, I think it's important to describe how important it is in our life and why it's important to protect it as well. So yeah, thank you so much for doing that.
It's an absolute pleasure. It's a real
And
pleasure.
and also thank you. Yeah, no worries, Merridy. And thank you to the audience for listening to today's wonderful episode. Be sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio. And before we, yeah, this gets shown everywhere, by the way. And before we wrap up, would you like to do the honors in signing off our episode? You can do it any way you like.
Oh, thanks for having me, Joey. It's been fun. And yeah, thanks, Joey's audience, for putting up with me for 45 minutes. I've enjoyed it.
Open wide, come inside. It's play school. Thank you, Merridy.